Today is day 2 of the biggest week in FNAF history, and I'm recording this a week before while I have a cold because I'm actually on vacation until tonight. So that's why I haven't streamed in like 2 weeks, by the way. Since I'm back tonight, starting tomorrow, hopefully, as long as everything goes well, I'll be streaming practically every day this week, talking about the releases and playing them on stream. But before we get swept away in everything that's happening, I wanted to give a sort of send-off to the last major release of the FNAF franchise, Help Wanted 2. Now, it's not like the game is going anywhere, but this will be the last time we're really focused on it for a couple months at least. And as y'all know, I've been chronicling all of the useful timeline lore of every single release in the franchise, or at least all of the directly shown or stated information I can with zero speculation, and I've been pinning it on this corkboard, or the LORKBOARD. For the purposes of this video, we're going to skip over Security Breach and cover Help Wanted 2. Like I mentioned, because I want to give Help Wanted 2 a bit of a send-off, and the Security Breach video is very long and I don't have time to do it right now, nor the voice to record a video that long. So slices, put on your aprons, and let's gather some ingredients. First, we should go over the actual story of Help Wanted 2, because for as straightforward as some of the lore and speculation can be about this game, a good bit of the overarching plot of Help Wanted 2 is pretty esoteric. It begins with an orientation for working at the Pizzaplex, in a empty room with knocked over chairs, and we immediately cut to the FNAF 6 pizzeria under Security Breach. This does present a problem. If we're just an employee at the Pizzaplex, we shouldn't know about this pizzeria. As per the duffel bag messages of Security Breach, most of the employees don't even know that there's anything down there. Instead, they're asking, why do we keep having sinkholes and brownouts of power? So if this truly is our first day at the workplace, then maybe Vanny has hired us directly or something. Or Help Wanted 2 shows us our orientation, and then the game starts about halfway through the actual story of this game. Regardless, keep that in mind. In the center of the room, we have a monitor in which we select the minigames that make up the bulk of Help Wanted 2. And immediately, we have another gray area. We know what the contents of these minigames are. Like, it's pretty easy to look at these minigames and be like, okay, this action took place. The problem is, in the context of Help Wanted 2, what are these minigames? The majority of them are just odd jobs around the Pizzaplex, and if that was all it was, then we wouldn't really have an issue here. After all, we're supposedly an employee, so us doing odd jobs around the Pizzaplex makes sense. But there's two major issues with that. Firstly, they take place at different times. Take food prep by itself, for example. L Chips takes place in a fully functioning Security Breach Pizzaplex with an atrium that's visibly working in the background. The second food prep minigame then takes place in a more rundown kitchen with a damaged Chica. And finally, the third food prep minigame takes place in a ruined daycare theater with a shattered Chica. These happen in different time frames, one before Security Breach, one possibly during, and one definitely after. Now, this on its own isn't a huge issue. After all, this could just mean that these games take place over a stretch of time. But the other major issue here is that we're not always at the Pizzaplex. For one, Carousel and Blast are outside, in an area that's very reminiscent of Fall Fest. But most notably is the entire section of the game titled Sister Location, which takes place in the Sister Location bunker with functioning Sister Location funtime animatronics. This is a major issue, because by the end of all the endings of Sister Location, the funtime animatronics have shed their exoskeletons and swapped it for a Michael Afton themed skin suit. So if we see someone like Circus Baby moving and functional, something's up. The way I see it, and that's going on the LORKBOARD, but this isn't. There's two possible explanations for the Sister Location minigames. Again, these are both speculation, not going on the LORKBOARD. But one, the monitor is actually a diegetic piece of the game. And it's not just a UI, but instead we are looking at recordings on an actual monitor of somebody else performing these tasks. This could make sense with a lot of theories about this game. After all, many people, myself included, believe that Cassie's dad is our player character in Help Wanted 2, and that he was investigating what's actually going on at this Pizzaplex. If he's doing that and he finds his way down here and there's a monitor with several video recordings, of course he's going to watch them to figure out what's going on. But none of that is confirmed. The other option would be that this monitor is non-diegetic and we're just doing the tasks that our player did. But if that's the case, then Sister Location and likely Fall Fest have to be recreations, which, as strange as it sounds, is not impossible. possible. In fact, it's very possible if we lean on Tales from the Pizzaplex. Use me for a brush and then leave. In Tales from the Pizzaplex, we hear about different pizzaplexes, and some of them have attractions that are based on the stories of the Fazbear franchise, just like Help Wanted, to the point that Pressure, one of the stories, features an attraction that is literally a costume roleplay, where one of the scenarios you can do is one of your friends dresses up as Springtrap and tries to chase around and kill you. Of course, it's all pretend roleplay, but that's an insane thing for Fazbear to just be promoting. Like, I understand that they're promoting it because they're like, haha, look at this made-up story. Hey, Fazbear, business tip. If somebody makes up a story about your brand, that someone dressed up in one of your characters and killed people, don't promote that as a funny story. Regardless, whether or not these books take place in the game's universe, this attitude towards Fazbear's past definitely does. So these sister location minigames could literally be attractions within the Security Breach Pizzaplex at some point. After all, many of the attractions are closed down when we're playing, just like the Foxy Log Flume. This could be the same thing. The fact that these animatronics kill us in these minigames are just like the other minigames. It's not like you would actually die in this attraction, but that's what we're testing to fix. We are the guinea pig, essentially, making sure these minigames work before the general audience is allowed to play them. So, which is it? Are these sister location minigames recreations of sister location for the general audience, or recordings of somebody else going to do these tasks? Currently, I lean towards recreations. After all, it's mentioned in the Steel Wool interview that FNAF did that there are attractions at the Pizzaplex that they conceptually know but are purposefully not shown in Security Breach. But like I said, this decision is much too speculative for the purposes of the LORKBOARD. So we'll mention the predicament, but not the answer I've suggested. So now that we covered like what the gameplay is, what changes in the game as we play? Like, what's the plot line? After about 15 minigames, you're given the Faz Wrench by Mystic Hippo, who remarks that this key is familiar to you. We then use the Faz Wrench on the terminal in the corner, which unlocks a room holding a shut-down Princess Quest 4 machine and an inhibitor from Ruin. Turning off that inhibitor, we find that we've been wearing a Vanny mask this whole time. It should be noted and pinned that both the Vanny mask and the Faz Wrench are told to us in Ruin to be things that Faz technicians use, which likely means if we were working at the Pizzaplex, that was our job. This also tracks with several of the tasks that we complete in this game, like repairing Freddy, training the endoskeletons, and practicing on Helpy. Taking the Vanny mask off, we see the actual state of the pizzeria we're in, and it's bad. It's much closer to what we see in Security Breach, this rundown, burnt, hole-in-the-ground pizzeria, complete with a barely functioning Candy Cadet. As we play these minigames, we receive gifts stated by the projection of Helpy to be for us. Inside these, we unlock Faz Force figures, or essentially Transformers but FNAF, with the promise that if we collect all 6, they can Voltron into the Faz Bonatron. And there's gotta be something that combining 6 of the main characters of Freddy's forms a Bonnie, but we're not gonna get into that right now. Man, when I'm sick, my register gets low. How? Hold on. Well, I'm thwarted by metaphysic puzzle, and I'm sick of grading papers that I know. I gotta get sick more often, Jesus Christ. If you beat every minigame, you get all 6, and when you collect the Faz Bonatron, you unlock the first ending immediately. A charging pod appears on stage, and Glitchtrap's hand exits it. You then immediately are surrounded by Nightmare staff bots, and your vision goes. When we come to, we're looking out of the point of view of a staff bot, specifically Maskbot, handing the mask to Cassie at the beginning of Ruin. Notably, in Ruin, that's the only staff bot that looks semi-organic when looking at it through the Vanny mask. Do I think we've been stuffed into a staff bot? No, I think this is more of like a digital metaphor. The game then ends, but that's not the only ending, because as you play, Mystic Hippo will give you cryptic hints towards side objectives you can complete within these minigames. 6 in total. Well, 6 objectives, but they technically take place over 10 minigames, because one of the objectives takes place over all 5 Phazerblast minigames. Doing these side objectives will unlock 6 puppets, much like the Phasforce figures, each one adorned with a different mask of the same characters, these characters being the main 4 Freddy's characters, the Puppet and Fredbear. However, if you collect all 6 of these puppets, Mystic Hippo will give you a digital purple coin, saying that it's time. And we know what this is for. We can use this on that Princess Quest 4 machine to play it. It's worth noting, and I'll pin it, you can only play this machine while wearing the Vanny mask. This machine only exists in an operable state within AR. It's not playable in the real world. Playing the game, the old man speaks in a very broken English, different from his first appearance in Princess Quest 2. And we should pin that because even J-Top in the FNAF interview said this was intentional. Going through a few rooms, eventually the princess meets us, and we can hit ourselves to go into the game, then grabbing the sword and continuing onward. When we get to the very bottom of this map, there are 6 graves adorned with the 6 puppets we've collected. If we light them in the correct order, we get an additional secret. You can just light them and move on, but in the correct order, you get this basement with a Bonnie mask that seems familiar to us. Moving towards the intended path, we find the old man again, to which we trade the Vanny mask for a Glitch Trap plushie, which is remarked to seem like a fair trade. For some reason, we then go in the sister location elevator and end up in a giant claw machine being played by Vanny. The claw, or moon on his string, collects the Glitch Trap plushie from us and gives it to Vanny, which we then see Vanny kill Glitch Trap in front of our eyes. This is a batshit crazy ending, but I love it, and both the music to get there and the music that plays during the credit sequence is peak. But this is an insane sequence. Any of the speculation that could possibly explain this is not meant for the Lork board, but we should pin that it exists. So that's the bulk of the plot line of Help Wanted 2. I recorded these out of orders and I almost forgot. This video is coming out on August 2nd. On August 5th, the Monday after this video comes out, the first video on my 3rd channel will be released. I've teased it a couple times on this channel. I'm fully announcing it, and there'll be a link in the description to the channel because there's no videos on it yet, so it's hard to find. It is Ridos. This channel is, I hear some of you have a second channel you barely post to. Why not do it there? This is I wanted to compartmentalize my YouTube content, and Ridos is the place for slower, calmer content, longer content as well. A lot of people have said that they like to put on my videos in the background, or they like the sound of my voice and think it's nice to just listen to. So this is kind of the place for that type of content. Starting on August 5th, the first video on that channel will be posted, and it is an audiobook recording of Into the Pit, the story that the game coming out next week is based on. So if you haven't read that story, or you have and you want a refresher, there's going to be an hour-and-a-half long recording of that short story on that channel coming out Monday on the 5th. And every Monday, there will be a video coming out on that channel. What video will it be? I'm not 100% sure. There will be more audiobook recordings of the short stories. I'm planning to take main channel videos and edit out like the intro, the outro, any ad segments, and put them into themed compilations. I've already made an hour of Ruin Theories to sleep to, and that'll come out probably the week after. My wife and I are planning to do a podcast, maybe on advice, maybe on relationship advice. We're not sure yet. All of the like slower, calmer, longer content will be moving there. That being said, the Freddy Fazbear Pizza podcast is staying here. Just because it is here, I don't want to move it around. But everything that's slow, like if you like my voice's background noise, this channel is your best friend. I hope to see y'all there. Really proud of that Into the Pit audiobook recording. I'll give you a snippet right here. The corridor was long and dark. The rabbit looked at him with blank eyes and an unchanging grin, then walked farther down the hall. Oswald wasn't chasing the rabbit. He was letting the rabbit lead him, as if he were in a terrifying version of Alice in Wonderland, going down the rabbit hole. And I hope that you'll be there. All right, anyway, back to the video. but there's a lot of lore still in this game. In fact, the majority of pertinent timeline lore is outside of the plot. The only pins from the overarching plot we haven't mentioned are about the player character themselves. In the rundown version of the pizzeria, we see a massive toolbox and different animatronic parts. So whoever is in here, possibly us, is repairing these animatronics. We also get some remarks about the player. Two of them are from Mystic Hippo, who says,
"Some parts remain. You must help. Why are you here? When are you? It needs you. She needs you. Do you remember? Hello? Can you hear me? Do you ever look at your hands? I mean, really look at your hands."
That's a strange line and worth noting. And her, Moon, and Circus Baby all say,
"What makes you so special?"
So that has to mean something. Also, Carney tells us,
"Now, you look like you got kids. Win a prize for the little one."
Also, he calls us a guy a few times. So whoever did the Faster Blast minigame is a father, or at least looks like one. So what other lore do we discover in these side minigames? Well, sticking with Faster Blast, it is incredibly noteworthy that Carney has the exact same build as Lefty, just differently painted, even down to the endoskeleton. Faster Blast and Carousel seem to take place in the same Fall Fest themed areas. After all, they have the pumpkins, the hay bale, the lantern, and they both have that water tower and windmill we see in Fall Fest of '83. Also, both minigames end in a fire. Notably, in Carousel, if you go out of bounds, you can find that the fire starts in the barn. Moving on, whoever is completing these tasks is the one who puts the faceplate on Roxy. She's shattered, and as we try to make her feel better, she eventually gives up and demands we put that faceplate on her, showing that it's not a design inconsistency, but an important piece of lore. We also see that the Glamrock endoskeletons are trained, not programmed. This is incredibly strong evidence that all of the Glamrocks are built off of the Mimic 1 program. But we'll save the speculation for later, but that's the speculation I'm going to make about this point. In the first aid station, FNAF noticed this chip in Helpy's brain. It's the exact same chip that we take out of Circus Baby at the end of Sister Location, the one that she says is her. It's also notable that one of the pictures in the background shows Helpy escaping a fire. In Fizzy Faz, we see that the Nightmare staff bots are actually possibly not physical, or at least the regular staff bots are not physical. One of them isn't physical, because we see one instantly transform in front of our eyes. So this is a hallucination, possibly an effect from the occipital nerve chip that gets implanted when you put on the Vanny mask. Now I hear you. We only have confirmation that Cassie has this chip. Our character uses the Vanny mask and likely got the chip as well, and if GGY is to be believed, it would make sense if Gregory also got that chip, which does mean that we really can't trust anything we've seen in these games, which is annoying. Also in Fizzy Faz, there's this picture. I have no idea what it means, but it's noteworthy that it seems to be a parent and a child, and either Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, or Glamrock Freddy and Vanny, or maybe Glitchtrap's suit. It's a very interesting rabbit and bear design, so it's worth noting. Moving on, and because we aren't sure what exactly these minigames are, someone was practicing repairing animatronics in the FNAF 6 office that Michael Afton used. Someone went to Sister Location and interacted with those animatronics, whether or not this is real, and someone rode a rideable version of the Foxy log flume. Finally, every prize you collect in these minigames comes out of a prize machine where the background is a poster of Fall Fest with the Freddy and Friends designs of the FNAF main cast, which not only again ties us to Fall Fest, but gives us some more information on the timeline of when Fall Fest could have been occurring. Oh yeah, the prizes. They have lore too. One of the most lore-filled prizes is the other Fall Fest poster. Not only is it another look and doubling down on its importance, but it features a date prominently on it, 1970. So using this and Help Wanted, we can maybe estimate that Fall Fest happened from at least 1970 to at least 1983, or at least it happened twice. It's also worth noting that several FNAF 6 attractions are at this location, including the Fruit Punch Clowns, Trash in the Gang, Pig Patch, even a barely functional Candy Cadet. In both the Faz Force figures and the Poppets, it's notable that the group is the missing child incident victims, and Charlotte. Like, both times it's the main 5 and the puppet. And this is a very loose point, but I think it's deserving to be brought up. All of the Fall Fest minigame attractions are surrounding Mystic Hippo, right? We have Fazerblast and the carousel as posters. We have the carousel like actual toy, and all of this is around Mystic Hippo, which Mystic Hippo is kind of a play on the classic Zoltar machine, which fits really well into a Fall Fest type circus, which I think means that Mystic Hippo might be from Fall Fest, but I won't put that on the lurk board. We'll just mention the placement. This kind of feels like this is the Fall Fest section of the room. And that's everything. The lurk board is officially one game away from being done until literally Thursday when Into the Pit comes out. But still, we are so close to being done. Did I miss anything? Because before I actually start using this in videos and making these red string connections, I'm going to make a video covering anything I've missed, and the comments are going to be especially useful. So please let me know if there's something you think is important to the timeline that I didn't mention. In the meantime, last week I made a pretty damn good Golden Freddy theory, if I do say so myself. So why don't you go and watch it? If you want your fan art featured on the channel, make sure to share with #RightTart. Huge thank you to the best channel members, the Dough Risers. And until next time, as always, stay toasty slices. And man, does my throat hurt. Go watch the streams for this week, please.